What's going on, y'all? Welcome back to Ideal Offseason. This is the series where I get to put the GM cap on for a little bit and help an NBA team navigate through their offseason. We try to make this series as realistic as possible. Like, we're not just going to be putting LeBron or something on some team and being like, look how much better they are. No, we try to take into account like a team's realistic needs and what could like actually maybe like feasibly happen in the NBA. If we're looking at the San Antonio Spurs, they're obviously not winning a championship next year. It's okay, how do we make them marginally better next year so that they're building upon the young core that they have? If we're looking at a team like the Lakers and they still got LeBron, then well, we're trying to win a championship, so we got to help them get there. So hey, this series has been awesome for my channel. Thank you guys for the support. Please make sure you guys keep subscribing, commenting. I've responded to every single comment on my YouTube channel up to this point, and I intend to keep on doing so. So let me have it with those comments. And one other quick side note, I'm pre-recording a bunch of videos this weekend and putting them out throughout the week so that you guys can see them. I am traveling throughout the week. An NBA team actually did hire me on retainer to do some analytics and some roster building like work with them. So it's cool. I'm doing like real life ideal offseason this year. I could talk about my NBA past and everything a little bit, but that's for another video most likely. Just wanted to let you guys know if something happens in real life and it doesn't reflect accurately with this, it's because it was recorded on Sunday today. So now you guys know. Let's get into the video. So we're back here with the ideal offseason spreadsheet. You guys know where I'm going with this. This is a cool little spreadsheet that I use to kind of help visualize this series and bring it to life in a way. If you guys want access to the spreadsheet, I've given it out to over 100 people so far, which is really cool considering how many subscribers I actually have. All you have to do to get access to the spreadsheet is leave me a comment saying, I would like the spreadsheet. I told you guys I read every single comment, and it helps my videos if you leave comments. So when you do that, I'll drop you a link to my Discord. You hop on my Discord, which is good for marketing, and then you can just shoot me a DM there being like, hey, I was hoping to get the spreadsheet. I'll hook you up with the spreadsheet. Really simple. Nobody's really had any problems with it so far. So yeah, you guys just let me know and I'll make sure it gets to you. But anyway, let's talk about the Detroit Pistons. That's the team we got today. The Pistons have been absolute booty cheek buns for a while now, and they've acquired a bunch of these like top picks that aren't always the first overall pick because they keep falling out of the first overall pick in the lottery. It's really unfortunate. I'm so sorry, Detroit Pistons fans. And so normally a team that was just worst in the NBA, right? You're like, okay, need to start rebuilding. How do we do this? This team doesn't need to like rebuild anymore, man. And here's why I'm telling you guys this, because this is going to influence the direction that we go about this for the rest of the episode. When you lose this much, it starts to become your culture in a way. And like culture is a really hard thing to explain to people, because if you guys just haven't been around like high level sports or something like that, you just don't know. Okay, but when you're losing this much and you've got all these young guys on this team that are trying to grow and they're trying to find their place in the league, and you just keep losing over and over and over again, they're not going to develop and it's not going to get better. Like at some point you just need to start winning some basketball games so that you can win some basketball games. I know that sounds crazy, but like for these young guys to get better, we got to help them start winning some games right now. So this is not going to be an ideal offseason where I'm like, let's set us up for the future. Let's try and get more young players. I can actually tell you we're probably going to be trading a young player in this one, and we'll get into that, but I'm trying to make this team a little bit better. What does that mean? Let's shoot for like we're trying to become a play-in team next year or something, right? Like Cade Cunningham's been in the league for a couple years now, right? I think this will be his fourth season? I believe it's his fourth season this next year, and he's not winning like any basketball games. It's really sad. Jalen Duren's been in the league for a little bit. He hasn't won any games. Asar Thompson had a sad rookie season. They've got all these good young players. Let's start winning some basketball games with them. We need to start getting better. So without further ado, let's start diving into this. We have a ton of cap space. What does that really mean for us? Not a whole bunch, besides the fact that we can take in some contracts via trade, because nobody's signing with us, let's be honest. Like there's just not a ton of guys out there that are going to want to sign with us, at least not star level players. Doesn't make a ton of sense. So we're going to be using this cap space today to try to take in some higher level talent, some dudes that can help us get better right away. Those are some things I definitely want to do, but we also want to make sure that we maintain some flexibility so that if like the perfect player becomes available, that we can try to bring them in as well. So we want to try and balance it, but we're trying to get better this offseason. We're going to try to take on some high level players. Looking at draft picks this year. We've got the 5th overall pick and the 54th pick. This 5th pick is not safe right now. It's not safe. I don't need another 5th overall player on this team. I just don't. I don't need anything more like that. And I don't really think there's someone in this draft worth taking with like the 5th overall pick for our team. Like I really don't. So I'm probably going to be packaging this pick with somebody else to go get us a player that can help us start winning basketball games right now. We've got a decent pick situation going forward. We have most of our picks. We do have a gap in 2025, which is unfortunate because are we going to be like a great team this year? No, and next year's draft class is good. So I'd like to find a way to get us into the 2025 class if at all possible. But for the time being, I'm not worried about like pick situation too much. I don't want this pick now. We're going to trade it to try and get us a better player. Let's take a look at the salary situation here because we've got a lot of things going on here. Let's start out with Evan Fournier. Team option $19 million for the time being. I'm going to probably say I don't even need to like trade this contract because I just don't think that it's going to be necessary. Evan Fournier, we're not picking up your team option. You are not going to be coming back. We would rather just have the cap space, and I'd rather just go see him sign for a minimum somewhere where he can just go and compete now. We've got Beef Stew on the team, who's got a nice, like, 3 years, $15 million a year still left on his contract. He's a guy that's not necessarily safe on this team either. I don't know, like, I feel like Isaiah Stewart's more of a center, and they've been trying to play him at the 4. He's got a decent three-point shot, but he's not mobile enough to play, like, perimeter defense or anything, so I think he's a little out of place. I'd like to probably try to find him a new home in this as well, but we'll see. Cade Cunningham's got a team option. Obviously, we're bringing Cade Cunningham back. I think Cade Cunningham is a really, really, really good basketball player. I think he's just been on some booty cheek teams that just really need some help in showing him, like, a little bit of love, right? Like, we need to get some better players on the team. Asar Thompson, phenomenal basketball player. I love Asar Thompson. Here's what I know you guys will say about Asar Thompson. His jump shot sucks. It's so easy for everybody to say what guys stink at. If everyone was good at everything, they'd all be Michael Jordan, right? It's just, I just hate comments like that because here's what this guy's already really good at. He's an elite defensive player. He's a really good passer. He's phenomenal without the ball. He finds so many soft spots in the defense by just like cutting and getting to the right places. He gets so many easy baskets. He's an 11 out of 10 athlete. He's an amazing rebounder. For a while, he was averaging like 10 rebounds a game as like a 2/3. He's a phenomenal basketball player. We got to find a way to keep him in the starting rotation and make sure he gets to develop. He gets a chance to develop. Jaden Ivey, a nice young point guard for him, started finally getting some minutes after, like, I'm guessing that Monty Williams has someone holding a gun to the back of his head because I don't understand the coaching decisions that are being made on that team. And Monty Williams is a good coach. Like, I've had interactions with Monty Williams. This guy's a really good basketball coach. I really think there's something in the Pistons organization that was telling them, like, who to play and who not to play last year because it just didn't make any sense. But we're bringing back Jaden Ivey. Jalen Duren, the exact same thing. I know there's a lot of team options on this. There's a lot of young dudes. Jalen Duren, I think, is a phenomenal center in this league. His defensive IQ is really good. He's really tough. He's a nice athlete, nice rebounder, good modern run, jump, and dunk center that's got a lot of size and strength to him. I love it. Want to keep Jalen Duren around. I think he's a great guy to have next to Cade. Then we've got Troy Brown Jr., who I've never been, like, too high on. Like, he's kind of just, like, at everything. He never has a great three-point shooting season. He's always okay defensively. He can put the ball on the floor a little bit. For $4 million, maybe he's someone we throw into a trade to make something happen. But if at the end of the day, $4 million, it's not the worst thing in the world. We've got the cap room for just another season, so I'm not going to trip about it. Marcus Sasser, a guy that, again, kind of lost out on some minutes last year, but when he played as a rookie last year, really, really, really productive. Really saw some good shot creation, some shooting. I want to make sure we're getting Marcus Sasser some ability to get out there and play some real minutes this next year so we can keep developing him. Quentin Grimes, a guy that we got via trade for Bojan and Alec Burks. Definitely want to be picking up his option. He was mostly hurt at the end of last season, which is pretty unfortunate. Ideally, he's a nice 3-and-D2 guard, so we're going to be trying to develop him as well. Stanley Amude and Chimezi Metu. I actually have a lot of experience with Stanley Amude, a really hard competitor and everything. And Chimezi Metu, solid reserve big in the NBA. I don't feel the need to bring any of these guys back personally, so I think I'm just going to be letting both of these guys go. One other thing I want to bring up is there's another $2.7 million down here that's being used, and that's because we still owe Dwayne Dedmon some dead cap money for this last season, so I just included that there so that we'd have an accurate cap reflection right here, so just know that that's the case. So what does that leave us with? That leaves us with $77 million in cap space, which is really exciting. We definitely want to put that to use. We also have 7 roster spots open. But before we even get to the draft, we want to get a trade in place because we don't want this 5th overall pick. I don't want it. I don't think it's necessary. I don't know who we would get in this unless we were trading up to get like a Reece Shea. I think he would make some sense to fit there, but we fell to 5. So you know what? That's what happened. This is the situation we were in. If we could get Reece Shea, I'd probably be okay with it, but I'm not that interested in it right now. So what I want to do is I want to go to the trade market and try to execute a trade that can get our fan base just like a little bit more excited about something and just give some of these young guys an opportunity to like really start playing some winning basketball. So we're back here on Fanspo. You guys know what Fanspo is at this point. It's a really cool like basketball social media hub where you can like do a whole bunch of things with like trade simulators and like mock draft simulators and everything. And you guys probably already know where I'm going with this, man. You already know where I'm going with this. I think that there's a way and a world where we can land Brandon Ingram in this. Now, Brandon Ingram is supposedly on the trade block and stuff. That's what some of the things we've been hearing. If I was a New Orleans Pelicans like front office person, that's not probably the way that I would want to go about things, but we're working in the world of realism and they're looking at moving him, and maybe they want to get some more guys that are a little bit more on like the age path of like Zion Williamson and like Dyson Daniels, maybe guys like that, like Trey Murphy, Herb Jones, stuff like that. I think that we could make something work. All right, so I've gone through and done a couple things to adjust this. I had the Pelicans not pick up Jeremiah Robinson-Earl. I just don't think it's a guy that they're probably going to be looking to bring back this year. He had a team option, so I declined that for them. I also declined the guys that we just talked about, so just know that now these are accurate tax numbers. The Pelicans are in the second tax apron right now, and that's because they've got enough cap holds that put them in the second tax apron. And what does that mean? It means that they can't package players together to go get one player. That's just what that means when they're in the second tax apron. They also can only take back like a certain amount, like more money. They can take back less money, but trust me, we're going to be the guys packaging stuff together to get back Brandon Ingram in this one. So let's start off with this. Brandon Ingram is coming our way, and what are we going to do to supplement these guys? Here's the first thing that they're trying to address over here in New Orleans, right? They would like a new point guard. CJ McCollum is pretty old. He's going to be off the team soon. They need a young point guard that they can start to develop, and so I would be moving Jaden Ivey over here first. And I know Pistons fans, Jaden Ivey's a nice young player. We're getting like a borderline all-star in Brandon Ingram in this that's 26 years old. Like, just calm down for a second. These are the types of things you got to do to go get Jaden Ivey, especially if the Hawks are throwing around like a DeJounte Murray, Trae Young type thing, right? So we give them somebody that's a little bit more on their age timeline that they can develop for a couple of years. Perfect. That's the first guy that we include in this. The next thing we're going to do with this is we're going to throw Isaiah Stewart into there. Most likely the Pelicans are going to be losing out on Jonas Valanciunas. They just don't seem to really care about bringing him back. We throw them Isaiah Stewart, another younger guy that, while yes, he's coming off an injury, has been able to space the floor a bit at times, would be a good rebounder for them. He's not like my favorite player ever in the NBA, but he's got a lot of toughness, right? And he does have some skills that he can bring to an NBA team, and he'll be allowed to play center here. So I think you throw them those two guys, and now all of a sudden you got two young players that you're getting back for Brandon Ingram that can still help contribute to a winning team. Obviously, we're not giving them enough. The next thing we're going to throw over to them is the 5th overall pick, and after that, we're probably going to want to trade them another pick. So what I'm going to do is I'm also going to throw them this 2027 first round pick. We're going to call it, we're going to put a protection on it because we're already giving them the 5th overall pick, and we're going to say we're not giving you 2 top 5 picks. So we're going to do that one and trade it back over to the Pelicans as well. So let's take a look at what this trade is right now. They're getting Jaden Ivey, they're getting Isaiah Stewart, they're getting the 5th overall pick in this draft, and they're getting our 2027 first round pick. That adds to their deep collection of draft picks that they got going on right now. What do we get back? We get back Brandon Ingram, who they apparently don't want to be paying anyway. They don't want to give him an extension. We would be giving him an extension by doing this. So let's try this trade and see if it makes sense. We've got a success. Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. This all makes sense. Everything works out. They only traded one player, so they didn't violate the second apron rule. So what happened here? The Pelicans got 2 young players, saved a bit of money, which is good for them, right? They got 2 first-round picks. They got the 5th overall pick, which honestly, there's a decent chance they could get Donovan Clingan with this, and they can get their center of the future anyway, just right then and there. And then they can go and move Larry Nance or something like that if they want to. Or maybe they can flip Beef Stew again. Who knows? But the point is they've got flexibility now. It's a lot easier to trade contracts of that size and some younger players that are interesting. We've brought in Brandon Ingram to help us start winning some basketball games right now. So we're going to change this to Brandon Ingram. Look at that. Look at that. And then Jaden Ivey is no longer on the team. Let's move these guys up a little bit. Wonderful, wonderful. And this is kind of what I'm thinking the rotation would look like then. I would picture Cade here. I'd see Asar. Now, I know what you guys are thinking. Why is Asar playing the 2? Just calm down for just 1 second while I explain it to you. We throw Brandon Ingram there. Okay, so this is what it's looking like right now. Cool. I think Cade Cunningham's plenty good enough to play the point guard. I'm not worried about that whatsoever. Asar Thompson, not a shooter, not a floor spacer. We understand that. We're going to have to address some more floor spacing with the power forward. I think Asar Thompson is just fine, though. We actually did a study on him, me and some of the other scouts, about how he actually created spacing despite being a bad shooter. And it's because he was so good at finding these like little pockets around like the baseline and around the nail and in the paint and stuff when other guys were messing around with the basketball, right? That he created space and guys had to sink down because they're like, okay, I need to make sure Asar Thompson's not like slipping through and causing some sort of problem. So this is the rotation that I would actually put him in. I think he's best as like a 2. This gives you an enormous team right now. Like you've got a lot of size with Cade, a lot of size with Asar, and a lot of size with Ingram. You got a big, strong center. We just have to make sure that we address the issue at a power forward to make sure that we do add some shooting, because we definitely got to add some to this team. And I want to be clear about something with this, because I'm sure you guys are already looking at this and you're like, oh, this team's not winning a championship. This isn't doing this. We need to start making winning moves within the organization to develop these players. I'm going to timestamp this for you guys if you comment this, and I love timestamping you guys because I never get a response, and I know that you go, oh, I didn't actually watch the video. But anyway, we just need to start making some winning basketball moves. And again, assume that Brandon Ingram gets an extension here. We've got him going forward. Now all of a sudden you got a really interesting core with like these 4 guys here, right? I think this is really, really interesting. We still have the 54th pick in this draft. I don't think there's necessarily somebody else that I want to trade. We might look to see if there's a Troy Brown and like 54th overall pick that we want to give to like a championship level team or something like that. Maybe they want like a cheap guy to come in off their bench or something. So maybe let's explore that real quick. Is there a way we can help out the Denver Nuggets with this? And by the way, I'm keeping the other trade up because I don't think there's a way on Fanspo to like save like the progress that you've been making and everything. And so just hear me out for just a second here. So Reggie Jackson's kind of a weird player that the Denver Nuggets have going on right now. It's probably not someone they necessarily want to have come back, but he's got a player option for like $5 million. Would it make more sense for them to have like a Troy Brown or something like that? I want to be able to sell people on Troy Brown, but I just struggle to do so, man. It's just the numbers are not there. Like he's always like, he shows like a spark like here and there that it's like, oh, maybe he'll be a 3-and-D player, and then he's just not. So I don't know if the Denver Nuggets are going to actually end up pulling something like that off. Maybe I'll just look around a little bit more. What about the Miami Heat here? Can we save them from Duncan Robinson's contract? Maybe we're the team that can do that to give them a little bit more flexibility to make a move. So they can't package players together, but that's totally fine. So if we throw them, say, Troy Brown, right? We trade him to the Heat in this one. Do we even like necessarily need to give them Troy Brown back, or can we completely like resolve them of their contract? Let me just try this out, and we move Duncan Robinson here. Like, does this trade just work? This trade does just work. Okay, that's really interesting. What kind of picks do the Miami Heat have? They have the 43rd pick, and what are we working with? The 54th pick. What if we do a little swap ski? what if we do a little swap and say like, hey, we'll move up in the second round because we're taking on this contract with you. We do a swap of second round picks. We move up. They still get a second round pick so that they can get some sort of second round guy to fill out the back end of their roster. We'll take on Duncan Robinson because we can use them more, and we save them like a shit ton of money. And they just don't really need Duncan Robinson. We need shooters on the team. I like this a lot. Like we've got the money to spend right now. We do, and we're not getting some big name free agent. Let's get some more shooters around Cade, Asar, Brandon Ingram, and Duren, right? Like that's got to be the priority going forward. Let's execute on that. Let's do that. So we're moving this over to the Heat. The 43rd pick comes over to us. We've moved up in the draft now a little bit so we can try to get somebody decent in the second round. Okay, let's operate on this trade and let's go do that. So Troy Brown is now Duncan Robinson. So obviously that takes up a lot of our cap space and everything, but that's totally fine. Like we can use his services right now. He's a winning type player. He's going to give us some floor spacing. I feel really good about this. So now we have the Heat's first round pick here. And what did we just get? Did we get the 43rd pick? We got the 43rd pick. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. Awesome. Okay, I think those are all the trades that we really need to make. I'm cool with this team. Reminder, we've got another shooter in Quentin Grimes that we could throw here if we really need to. Like, because here's the thing. If we really wanted to, we could move Brandon Ingram over to the 4, and you guys can tell me that that's what you want to do. Fine. Like, we can talk about rotations all we want, right? We can move Brandon Ingram to the 4, move Asar to the 3, and start Quentin Grimes so that we have a shooter there. I've got an idea for who I want to put here, but I think this is fine for now. Okay, let's go to the draft and let's start making some things happen. Alrighty, so we're here on the Fanspo Mock Draft Simulator. It's a really cool tool that kind of adds a sense of like randomness to the NBA draft. I think it helps make the series a little bit more realistic instead of me just being like, I think this guy's going to be available with this pick, so that's what we're going to do. No, this adds like a new sense for things. But we don't have the 5th pick anymore. I am going to be trading it to, who did we trade it to? We traded it to the New Orleans Pelicans. I've got to find them. There they are. There's the Pelicans. That pick is going over there. And obviously when the 43rd pick comes up, I will move that over. So just know that we'll be picking with the 43rd pick. There you go, New Orleans Pelicans. They take Buzelis with it. What a shame. Yeah, no, I think you guys should mess around with Fanspo as much as possible. It's a really cool thing. Like, they've got all these like little sliders that you can mess around with to kind of determine how it goes through this. I just kind of put it on the pretty basic sliders and tell it to go with the most like accurate rankings of people. I tell it to go by like needs and stuff like that, because I think that's going to be more important in this draft class is like actual team needs. Yeah, I'm really curious to see who we can get with this pick. Like, what do we kind of need? Like, probably just, this might be something where we take a young guy to try to develop. It depends on really who's available. I wouldn't mind taking like an older guy either, but somebody with a little skill. Baylor Shireman would have been a good one for us here. But all right, we're here at the 43rd pick. So this is the perspective I want to have with this, because at the end of the day, you guys have heard me say this with like the Portland Trailblazers a lot. I hate when teams take guys with these high draft picks and don't put players around them that are cohesive to helping them win. What do I mean by that? Cade Cunningham has been on this team for so long, and why haven't they found like any players that make sense to put around him? Like, I think guys like Duren make a lot of sense, and I think that's really cool, but we got to make sure that we're putting guys on the team that make sense to have around our young star player, right? So I want to make sure we're prioritizing that. Looking at the depth chart that we have right now, we could use a little bit of everything, so I don't think there's a huge positional need, but I see 2 Frenchmen that I find to be particularly interesting. And they're very similar players as well. We have, I know that people were just telling me how to say this guy's name. Pacome. I believe it's Daddy. Is it Daddy? I think that's how. Thank you guys to all you people that are helping me pronounce things like in the comments. Those comments are very well appreciated. I'm trying to get better at them. I did call somebody in a video. You guys will see it if you watch my channel this week. I keep messing up somebody's name, and it's a habit I can't break. So just watch my videos this week. It'll be very obvious which one I keep messing up. So you guys just watch it and feel free to flame me in the comments for it. I know I'm dumb. But anyway, Pacome, Daddy, and Melvin Ajinça. 2 taller like shooting guards that are already really, really good shooters. I like that. I want more shooters on the team, more length on the team. If we can just build like the ultimate lengthy team, that sounds fun to me. A lot of switchability, a lot of potential for good defense, a lot of floor spacing. I think that's really cool. So which one do we kind of want? So this is the kind of the difference with the two players. I think Daddy A is maybe a little bit more polished right now. They're both pretty raw, so they're both going to be projects. Like, don't get that wrong. I think you see a little bit more like defensive potential out of Daddy A, maybe a little bit more like basketball IQ. Ajinça, you get like really good shooting. Like, he's hitting it from deep sometimes, but his defense is a little bit more like so I feel like for that reason alone, because you also get a little bit of playmaking with Daddy, I feel like I just like him a little bit more as a prospect in general, and I've taken him in a lot of these like second round like drafts that we've done recently. But I think I'm going to take the boy Pacome here. So Pacome would get this much money. He's a rookie. We put him on a 2-year deal. We're going to throw him right here at the shooting guard spot. We've got 7 roster spots left, and we're done with the draft now. We only took one guy in it because we walked away with Brandon Ingram going into this. And by the way, I know there's a stipend rule for why the 5th pick couldn't be traded. It would just have to be a draft night thing. Just don't worry about it. I don't want to see any comments about it. I will timestamp this as well. But anyway, some things we need to address. We got to find like a solid backup center for this team. Got to find a power forward. I've got somebody in mind, but we're going to make some additions to this team. Probably try to bring in some more vets as well. We're trying to be competitive this year. Look, we don't have a draft pick anyway. Might as well go be good at basketball, right? Like, we got to start growing these dudes internally. Let's get to work. So let's first take a look at our own free agents here, because we've got some interesting options. Obviously, we let Fournier go. James Wiseman, I'm not interested in the project anymore. I'm just not. He's a restricted free agent. He can go where he wants, not matching his contract. I don't want to deal with that project anymore. I think it was a dumb trade. Like, that was like the Sadiq Bey, like Gary Payton, James Wiseman thing. I never understood the trade. It didn't make any sense for any of the teams involved, in my opinion, but, is what it is. Simone Fontecchio, I love his game. Restricted free agent. We are going to be matching anything that comes his way, and I'm willing to bet that he's probably going to go for like $8 to $10 million, because he had a nice back half of the season. And here's the thing, like, I know I'll probably see some comments saying like, oh, he's probably going to go for this much. Teams are really afraid of the second apron right now because the rules are crunching down on them more and more, and teams are still trying to figure it out. I think some of these middle level guys are kind of going to get screwed on these contracts. So what we might do for Fontecchio is we might give him like a 2-year, like $10 million a year type thing, so that he feels happy, he feels invested, he wants to be here. He's probably a guy that's going to start for us this season because he was so good for Detroit while he was there, gives us enough floor spacing. But then he also has the option where if he plays well for 2 more seasons, he can go get another contract after that, and we'd be happy to sign him to that. Or do we want to give him 3 years so that we can have his bird rights? He's going to be old at that point. I don't know how big of a contract a guy like Fontecchio is going to be getting at that point. So it could screw us over a little bit in that sense, but let's do this. Let's give him maybe 3 years, but there's a team option. How about we do that for Fontecchio, right? Or do we want to give him a player option for the 3rd year? Would that be better? Let's do something like that. So let's go get Simone Fontecchio. We're going to give him, because we're giving him a 3rd year with a player option, let's give him 9. Let's call it 9. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Perfect. $9 million. And we're going to say that it's 3 seasons, but there is a player option on it. If he wants it, I envision Fontecchio can fall in. You can say that either him or Brandon Ingram would be there. I don't know where the picture is. Just give it a second. But either of these guys could play the 3 or the 4. Alrighty, 6 roster spots left and $38 million still to spend. Obviously, Cade Cunningham's got to get his money. Brandon Ingram's going to be getting his money this year, so we don't want to go like too crazy with this, right? We don't want to go too crazy. Quentin Grimes, we're going to have to give a decent contract to. He's probably not getting an extension this offseason. He's probably going to hit restricted free agency just because like he just hasn't proven enough yet. I'm sure they'll try to lowball him with like something, and maybe he signs it. I don't know, but guys usually don't do stuff like that, and they just hit restricted free agency anyway. So just keep that in mind. We're not trying to spend all 38, but I'd like to go get another decent player. We're okay with going into luxury tax. We haven't been there in a while. So let's go find like some other guy, because just looking at these other guys, Malachi Flynn, we'll talk about him in a little bit. Might be a guy we bring back. We'll see. But let's just go see who's available right now. Spoiler alert, it's not anything all that crazy. Like, we're not in contention for Klay Thompson, Paul George, LeBron. Tobias Harris, you could probably make a play at. I don't know if he's going to sign up to be like a backup / potential starter at the 4. I don't really see that. I feel like he's going to want to take like a short-term contract where he can increase his value again for like a bad team. and get a ton of playing time. Like I see the Charlotte Hornets as a really good fit for him personally, but let's just take a look around and see what we can or can't find. Here's a move that I think could be really interesting. Jonas Valanciunas. So let's presume that, like we were saying, the Pelicans probably aren't bringing back Valanciunas, right? Like it sounds like they're going to mutually part ways. They're not all that interested. Valanciunas is getting a little bit older. I'm sure he wants to win a championship at some point, but I bet you he's trying to get one last payday. We don't need to pay anybody really anything crazy this year, so what if we just pay him to come in and be a really dynamic backup center for us? We've seen how powerful it is to have two really good centers at any given point. Valanciunas can also step out and hit a three if he absolutely needs to, which I think is valuable on this team. He's a guy that could practice with Jalen Duren all day. He can come off the bench and just be a guy that really helps to develop him, bangs with him all practice and everything. And then after that, he can go ring chasing if he wants. Maybe we're really good and we bring him back on another one-year contract, but let's just give him like one more big payday, and maybe he wants something longer term. I personally think we just throw something at him that he can't say no to at the end of the day. Like I'm going to show you guys what exactly I mean by that in just a second here, but just something, just come in, help us win some basketball games right now, and then we move on. So I'm going to bring in Jonas Valanciunas here, and again, I know he can probably go get a starting center job on like a couple NBA teams around the league. I don't think it's going to be like anything that crazy. Like it's going to be like Hartenstein, Claxton, those guys will go first. Like someone's probably going to try to make a play at Mo Wagner or something like that. But like Valanciunas probably is the guy that comes in after that. And I don't know what teams are really taking him in to be a starter. Like there's going to be some championship teams that try to pull him in, and maybe he is interested in that. I don't know the guy, but I'm going to throw a contract at him that I don't think he can reasonably say no to. And that's $1, 2, 3 million for one season. Come in here and help us start winning some basketball games, bring us some toughness, and help us win games right now. So what do we have now, right? I know you guys are still mind blown that Jonas Valanciunas got this much money, and honestly, maybe somebody will throw more at him with how much players are going for nowadays. What do we got going on? We've got some shooters on the team now. Marcus Sasser, hopefully a good shooter for us off the bench. Hopefully Q Grimes becomes a good shooter, right? We've got Duncan Robinson. We got Fontecchio. Valanciunas can step out and hit one, but he's mostly just going to be an attitude guy for us. We got a lot of versatility. I'd like to go find like one more possible rotation player to add to this team. I don't know how much we're going to have to pay to go get them, but like I'm willing to shell out just a little bit more money to go make something like this happen. What do you guys think about Jalen Smith? And so here's what I'm thinking with Jalen Smith. Gives us an option to play the 4 or the 5, can step out and hit a three-pointer if he needs to, which is important to us. Actually, he hits 42% of them, but he doesn't take like a ton. Is a solid all-around player, gets you like 10 points, 5, 6 rebounds a game. A lot of people think he's going to opt out of his contract. I don't necessarily think that that's like the most likely case scenario. Like maybe he does, but here's the thing. We talked to his agent a little bit. We say like, hey, we'll give you more than the $5 million. Opt out, we'll give you a nice 2-year deal or something like that so we don't screw ourselves financially going forward. You can continue to prove yourself to someone, get a really nice pay raise. You come in and be another nice reserve for us. Probably doesn't play like a ton of minutes necessarily, but we can afford to pay you right now. And look, we're trying to win some basketball games right now. So I'm going to say that I'm going for Jalen Smith here. I'm giving him $12 million for 2 seasons. $12 million for 2 seasons. Come in, be our backup 4 right here. Now, all of a sudden, we've got 10 solid basketball players on this team. Now, all of a sudden, this is a pretty competitive basketball team, right? For the most part, you presume Cade Cunningham's going to keep getting better. You have smart players in Asar Thompson, Fontecchio, Brandon Ingram. You got Duren. You got a ton of size on this team. A ton of size. And that's going to be the big thing for us. Switching a lot of things, being big, being strong, right? So I like this. Let's use the last 4 roster spots to kind of round out. Maybe find like a restricted free agent or something like that we could be interested in. Find some other young guys. This is becoming pretty interesting to me. I know we're making a lot of moves for this team, but it's got the ability to make the moves. So we're going to do them, and we're trying to win some games. First thing I want to do is bring Malachi Flynn back. I think that's more than fair. He did have like the 50-point game for them and everything. Is somebody going to give him more than like $3-4 million a year? I don't know. I'm fine with giving him like a 2-year, like $4 million or $3.5 million or something. So let's go with Malachi Flynn. We're going to say we're giving him 3.5. We'll do that. for 2 seasons, right? We bring Flynn back onto the roster. Could be a guy that plays rotational minutes for us. I'm not too big on him, and I can tell you most scouts really aren't that huge on him either. Yes, he can go score for you at times, but the rest of his game's pretty iffy. I want to look at wings now, so let's go over to forwards and see who else we can't bring in on the cheap. I actually have an idea. The next guy I want to bring in is Reggie Bullock. Reggie Bullock, I know you guys probably aren't too high on him. He's not the craziest player you've ever seen in the world, but I want to bring in Reggie Bullock because he is just like a tough veteran dude, and I want to make sure we're putting as much effort into developing guys like Cade, Asar, right? Q Grimes, Duran, hell, even like Brandon Ingram to an extent, right? And Sasser. So I want to be bringing in guys like this that are like winning culture dudes. We're trying to start winning basketball games. I want to bring Reggie Bullock in. Reggie Bullock is also nice because he can shoot the 3 ball really, really well. So Reggie can slide in here. Probably not a guy that gets a ton of burn for us, but great locker room guy. What other forwards do we really want to target? Like, I think like a Torrey Craig or something could be interesting. I thought about Chetty Osman. I'd want this other kind of 4 to be more of a wing in general. All right, the next guy I want to bring in is Jordan Nwora. A little bit younger of a guy. He's an unrestricted free agent at this point that just really hasn't found his footing in the league yet. He's supposed to be kind of a stretch wing, but hasn't been doing a great job of stretching, if you will. So I'm cool with throwing like a minimum contract at him, being like, hey, come try to prove it in the locker room this year. You'll have a chance to fight for a roster spot and stuff like that. So I'm cool with bringing him in on a minimum. Jordan Nwora would get this much money for 1 season as well. We'll just throw him. He gives us a different option as well, so I like that. Let's try and find one more center to throw on this team, even though we've got a couple guys that can play center on here. Is there somebody that we would find kind of interesting, maybe a little bit older of a dude to come in and be on this team? Let's just go get another guy with some playing experience, man. Let's just go bring Alex Lennon. So we're going to have 2 really big dudes that Duran has to go up against in practice all the time. I'm not huge on Alex Len, but he's played enough NBA minutes at this point to where, like, I'm just not really all that concerned about it. Like, if he has to get in the game at some point, he's not going to be absolutely, like, putrid for you. So that's honestly fine by me. It's hard to find 7-footers nowadays. This is what you get with it. I'm totally fine with it. And this is your 2024-2025 Detroit Pistons. Let's recap. We traded the 5th overall pick and some nice young players for Brandon Ingram. We're trying to win basketball games. We're trying to start winning some games for the benefit of Cade, Asar, Duran, Sasser, all these dudes. We're trying to win. We've made sure we prioritize some floor spacing because we realize Cade and Asar aren't the best perimeter shooters of all time. So we've got guys like Fontecchio. Jalen Smith can step out and hit one. Jonas can if needed. Duncan Robinson, Reggie Bullock, Quentin Grimes, Dadier is somebody that we drafted that we hope can be a nice role player for us eventually. Sasser and Flynn are 2 scoring guards to come off the bench. We're very, very young at the point guard position, but that's okay because we've got other ball handlers on the team if we need to. Now, is this team going to win a championship next year? Hell no, it's not. But we got to start being more competitive than what we are. Like, this formula isn't working. We got to break the cycle. We got to find out what we have in these guys. Because here's the thing. Maybe we go through this whole season and we just find out that, like, Cade ain't that dude for some reason. I think Cade is really that good or whatever. And then maybe we got to make a move and we got to do someone else. And presumably we have Brandon Ingram on a long extension at that point. He's still going to be a valuable asset to teams and everything. We're not locked into any major contract, as you can see going forward. Presumably Cade's getting an extension as well as, like, I don't know, somebody else on this team. But I like this team right now. It's going to be competitive. We're shelling out money to some guys that are just trying to help us get better right now because we can afford to. And otherwise, I feel happy about this. I'm really excited with how this team would look. I'd be curious to see them play next year. I mean, the East isn't that good. Maybe they could just straight up surprise some people. I don't know. It's a pretty talented team for the most part. But hey, you guys let me know what you think in the comments below. I appreciate it as always, and we'll talk to you guys later. Thanks so much. Bye.